Tuesday thrills. Tonight. Bekele went for gold and forgot his shoes. United Kingdom and France launch pirate hunt, but did they bring grog? And CERN scientists unleash fury of atomic farts on unsuspecting France. Plus, coming up, are you eating enough to save the sofa industry? We investigate the Great Chesterfield crash of 2024. Those are the headlines, smothered in glory.
A Newsbang, a nuclear blast of veracity, Armageddon on the airwaves. 1960.
Ethiopian runner Abebe Bekele has won the marathon at the 1960 Rome Olympics while completely starkers from the ankles down. Eyewitnesses report that Bekele sprinted past the finish line, his bare feet slapping against the cobblestones like a pair of raw steaks.
Local cobbler Giuseppe Rigatoni was outraged, exclaiming, "Mamma mia, this is not what we make of the roads for." Meanwhile, shoe companies worldwide have filed for bankruptcy, realizing their entire industry is now obsolete.
Bekele's victory has sparked a new trend among athletes, with many now considering running au naturel. The Olympic Committee has responded by implementing a strict no shirt, no shoes, no gold policy for future games.
Attire 3, 1937.
The 1937 Neon Conference has been revealed as a secret underwater knitting circle. Participants from the UK, France and Italy gathered in submersibles to discuss the latest crochet patterns while pretending to address piracy in the Mediterranean.
Eyewitness Nigel Wetsuit, a local fish enthusiast, reported seeing diplomats in scuba gear furiously knitting sweaters for submarines. "It was quite a sight," he bubbled. "I've never seen a Soviet delegate purl with such intensity."
The conference established strict rules of engagement, including no purling on Tuesdays and a ban on using coral as knitting needles. Information sharing agreements were limited to swapping yarn colors and the latest gossip about Franco's fashion choices.
While the measures proved effective in reducing the number of poorly dressed submarines, tensions arose when Italy insisted on adding sequins to all naval attire. The UK delegation stormed out, declaring, "We'll be damned if we're going to look like disco balls on the high seas."
2008.
The world's largest particle accelerator, CERN's Large Hadron Collider, has once again fired up its engines of destruction, threatening to tear apart the very fabric of reality. Scientists, drunk on power and free croissants, have decided to smash protons together at speeds that would make your ground's mobility scooter look positively sluggish.
Dr. Francois Baguette, lead scientist at CERN, declared, "We're not just playing God, we're challenging him to a cage match." The LHC, a 27-kilometre ring of superconducting magnets buried beneath the Franco-Swiss border, has already discovered the elusive Higgs boson, nicknamed the God particle, because it's just as difficult to find as divine intervention at a football match.
But it doesn't stop there. CERN's latest experiment aims to recreate the Big Bang because apparently the first one wasn't explosive enough. Local resident Helga Schnitzel expressed concern. "They're going to create a black hole and suck us all into another dimension where everyone wears lederhosen."
Newsbang, shaking up the fact-filled shaker of factuality.
Brace yourselves for a whirlwind tour of Britain's climate capers. Here's Shakanaka Giles.
Alright, let's get to it, weather watchers. Starting in the southeast, we've got a bit of a rumble on the horizon, a bit like the rumblings of a hungry giant. Reminds me of that old Constantinople quake back in 1509. The ground shaking, buildings crumbling, and the locals scurrying for cover. Thankfully, we're not expecting anything quite that dramatic, but do keep an eye out for a few tremors, just in case. Now, over to the east, where it's going to be a blustery one, a veritable typhoon of activity. Typhoon Ellen back in '83 gave Hong Kong a right pummeling, and it seems we're in for a bit of that action tomorrow. Batten down the for the and how is a sources as was a sword it is and the for her kushaksa and I make sure your shield to your roof tiles are firmly in place. Hope we don't want any impromptu skylight installations to be rounding things out in the north. It's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. Sunshine and showers like a moody teenager. 1 minute they're all sunshine and rainbows. The next they're slamming doors and brooding in the corner. Best to pack both your wellies and your sunnies, just to be on the safe side. In summary, then, a bit of a rumble, a whole lot of blow, and a touch of the unpredictable. Stay safe out there, and don't forget your brolly. And that's all the weather.
Itaisi Studio 2000.
And now, a flashback to this day in the year 2000, when British forces executed a daring rescue operation in Sierra Leone, freeing captives from the notorious West Side Boys. This audacious mission not only saved lives, but also dealt a crushing blow to the rebel group, hastening the end of the Sierra Leone Civil War. It seems the West Side Boys learned the hard way that when it comes to hostage situations, Britain doesn't play games, unless the game is capture the flag with real soldiers. For more on this story, we go to our war correspondent, Brian Bastable. Brian, I understand you're currently embedded with a group of retired West Side Boys. What can you tell us?
Indeed, Pamela, I am here in the very heart of the storm as the thundering tempest of violence tears through the countryside, rending asunder all who dare to oppose the crashing wave of the British military might. As the dragoons of the Queen's Royal Hussars smashed through the ranks of the militant West Side Boys, the very air around us became saturated with the sharp and bitter tang of high explosives and the nauseating sweetness of fresh blood. Ahead, I can see the frantic figure of a West Side boy, his ragged clothes flapping in the hot wind of the rotors as he clings to the body of a man, his throat cut from ear to ear, a ragged line of red upon the white of his neck. And as I turn away, I see the crumpled form of a British warrior, his body twisted and broken, his breath rattling in his chest, his eyes fixed on the sky above, his spirit already on the wings of angels, bound for a place beyond the reach of the devils of war. The sounds of battle are deafening, the sharp crack of the British rifles, the angry thump of the helicopter gunships, the screams of the dying and the wails of the bereaved. And through it all, the ceaseless clamor of the British troops, their fury unquenchable, their determination unbreakable as they tear their way through the crumbling remnants of the West Side Boys, their fury at the captivity of their comrades, their hatred of the forces of chaos and destruction, driving them on. And as I stand here, the last fragments of the West Side Boys blown to dust by the fury of the British, I can only marvel at the courage, the strength, the sheer unyielding power of the forces of order and light as they smash their way through the darkness, driving the forces of chaos and destruction back into the void, their victory complete, their purpose fulfilled. As I stand here, I am struck by the strange contrast between the carnage and the beauty, the ugliness and the grace, the death and the life that surrounds me. And as I walk away, I am left with a sense of awe, a sense of wonder, a sense of the power of the human spirit, as it rises above the chaos and the violence to create, to build, to shape, to forge a better world. And as I leave this place, I am left with the knowledge that the forces of order and light will always prevail, that the tide of chaos and destruction will always be turned back, that the human spirit will always triumph in the end. And as I turn away, I am left with the words of the great poet, that man of wisdom and foresight, that beacon of hope in the darkness, that shining star of the human spirit who once wrote, "The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity." But in this place, this crucible of violence and chaos, I have seen the best. And they have shown me that conviction, that passion, that determination, that strength, that courage, that power, that they will always, always, always prevail. And so, as I leave this place, I do so with a heart that is full, a spirit that is lifted, a mind that is at peace, and a soul that is filled with hope. And as I leave this place, I am reminded of the words of the poet who once wrote, "Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul." This is Brian Bastable reporting from the heart of the storm, the very epicenter of the tempest, the very crucible of war, the very place where the human spirit triumphs, where the forces of order and light drive back the forces of chaos and destruction, and where the best, those men and women of conviction, of passion, of determination, of strength, of courage, of power, of hope, always, always, always prevail.
Attire 3, 1937.
Here's a maritime melodrama from 1937 that would make even Poseidon's trident tremble. The Nyon Conference, a gathering so urgent it made afternoon tea seem like a leisurely affair. Britain and France, playing maritime matchmakers, corralled nations to address the menace of sneaky submarines in the Mediterranean. The result? A nautical game of tag you're sunk with new rules, fancy patrol zones, and a promise to share more secrets than a gossipy mermaid. But like a poorly tied sailor's knot, the long-term impact unravelled faster than you can say Davy Jones's locker. For more on this underwater kerfuffle, we go to our political correspondent Hardiman Pesto.
Martin, I'm here at the Nyon Conference where 9 nations have gathered to address the scourge of Mediterranean piracy. The mood is tense, with delegates eyeing each other suspiciously over their croissants.
Pesto, can you give us some specifics on what's being discussed?
Well, Martin, it's all very hush-hush, but I've managed to overhear some whispers about submarine warfare and rules of engagement. It's clear that these nations mean business when it comes to protecting their merchant ships.
And what exactly are they proposing to do about it?
From what I can gather, they're planning to set up some sort of naval patrol. It's like a neighborhood watch, but with battleships.
Battleships? Are you sure about that, Pesto?
Absolutely, Martin. I've seen them myself. Big grey things, lots of guns. Can't miss them.
Pesto, those are cruise ships. You're at a marina, aren't you?
No, Martin. I assure you these are warships. Why, I just saw a group of sailors doing the can-can on the deck of one.
Those would be the entertainment staff, Pesto. Now, can you tell me who's actually attending this conference?
Certainly, Martin. I'm here with noted historian and piracy expert, Professor Blackbeard McEyepatch. Professor, what can you tell us about the conference attendees?
Well, it's primarily led by the United Kingdom and France, with other Mediterranean nations joining in. Italy's absence is quite notable, given their interests in the region.
Interests? Could you elaborate on that, Professor?
Well, there are suspicions that Italian submarines might be behind some of these attacks on merchant ships.
Italian submarines? Nonsense. Everyone knows Italians can't swim. How could they possibly operate submarines?
Pesto, I don't think that's quite...
No, Martin, I've done my research. I've been watching these Italians all day. They won't go near the water. They're terrified of getting their hair wet.
I believe you might be confusing the Italian delegates with the hotel staff, Mr. Pesto.
Pesto, can we please focus on the actual conference? What concrete measures are being proposed?
Right, yes. Well, they're talking about setting up patrol zones. Each country will be responsible for keeping an eye out for pirates in their designated area. It's like a giant game of battleship, really.
And how effective do they expect these measures to be?
Oh, very effective, Martin. They're even considering issuing each ship with a parrot and a wooden leg, to blend in with the pirates.
I think we've heard quite enough, Pesto. Thank you for that illuminating report from the Nyon Conference, or whatever marina you've wandered into.
Another Newsbang, a grave of laughter buried under a weight of facts. 1960.
Over to our sports correspondent, Ryder Boff, for a look back at a truly remarkable moment in Olympic history. Ryder?
And now let's hop in our time-travelling Morris Minor and zip back to 1960, where the streets of Rome are buzzing like a hive of gelato-crazed bees. It's the Olympics, and the marathon's about to kick off. But wait, what's this? An Ethiopian chap named Abebe Bekele is lining up at the start, and blow me down with a feather duster, he's as barefoot as a newborn giraffe. The other runners are gawping like they've just seen Elvis riding a unicycle. And they're off. Bekele's toes are gripping the road like a bunch of determined sausages. He's overtaking the shoe-wearing runners as if they're statues in the Vatican. By Jove, he's making them look like they're running through treacle while wearing concrete wellies. I tell you, it reminds me of the time I ran the Chipping Norton fun run in my silk pyjamas after a heavy night on the sherry trifle. Caused quite a stir, I can tell you. Old Mrs. Higginbottom nearly choked on her jam scone. But back to Bekele. He's storming ahead, leaving the competition in his dust, or should I say, in his foot powder. The crowd's going bananas, waving their cappuccinos in the air like it's a coffee commercial gone mad. He's approaching the finish line now, ladies and gentlemen. The other runners are so far behind, they might as well be in a different time zone. And he's done it. Bekele's won gold. He's broken the world record. He's asking for a foot massage. Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. Abebe Bekele has just become the first sub-Saharan African to win an Olympic gold medal, and he did it with less footwear than a hobbit on holiday. It's a momentous occasion, folks. Mark my words. This will change the face of long-distance running faster than you can say bunion plaster. From now on, every runner will be eyeing up their shoe rack and wondering if they should chuck it all in the bin. As for me, I'm inspired. I'm thinking of running my next commentary barefoot, although given the state of the BBC canteen floor, I might need a tetanus shot first. That's all from Rome, 1960. Join me next time when we'll be discussing the controversial decision to replace the javelin event with synchronized tea drinking. I've been Ryder Boff, and so have you.
Itatusipitedi 2008.
And now, for a report on the anniversary of the Large Hadron Collider, we turn to our science correspondent, Calamity Prendeville. Calamity has been covering particle physics since she accidentally walked into a cyclotron, thinking it was a revolving door.
Good evening, science enthusiasts. Today marks the anniversary of a monumental British achievement in particle physics. On this day in 2008, the Large Hadron Collider, or LHC, began operations beneath the France-Switzerland border. But don't let the location fool you. Twice. Marvel of engineering is as British as fish and chips.
Developed by the brilliant minds at CERN, Crumpets and Earl Grey Research Network, the LHC is essentially a giant underground donut filled with magnets colder than your mother-in-law's heart. It's designed to smash particles together at speeds that would make even the most reckless London cabbie blush.
The LHC's primary goal? To recreate the conditions just after the Big Bang, or as we Brits call it, the Great British Bake-Off of the universe. Scientists hope to observe new particles like the elusive Higgs boson, nicknamed the God particle, because it's about as easy to find as a polite person on the tube during rush hour.
But the real genius lies in its construction. The superconducting magnets were developed using technology borrowed from the nation's finest tea cozy makers. The ultra-high vacuum system, inspired by the inside of Prince Charles's head. And the cryogenic cooling system? Well, that's just your average British summer, isn't it?
So, next time you hear about groundbreaking discoveries in particle physics, remember, it's all thanks to good old British ingenuity. And tea. Lots and lots of tea. This is Calamity Prendeville, reminding you that the universe is just atoms having a laugh. Cheerio.
These news bang, unleashing a torrent of facts that could drown even the most steadfast cynic. 1845.
And on this day, in 1845, John Doubleday, a man with more patience than a saint at a snail race, completed the restoration of the Portland vase. This Roman relic, shattered into more pieces than a politician's promises, was painstakingly reassembled by Doubleday, using techniques so revolutionary they make sliced bread look positively Stone Age. For more on this gripping tale of glue and glass, we go to our culture correspondent, Smithsonian Moss.
Now at this point of the evening, we welcome listeners on FM who've just joined us.
Whoa, folks, gather round. I've got a doozy of a tale for you. You know how sometimes you're just chillin', sippin' on a cold one, and then bam, some clumsy oaf comes along and smashes your priceless ancient Roman vase into a gazillion pieces? Yeah, that's basically what happened to the Portland vase back in the day. I mean, can you imagine? It's like the ultimate party foul. But fear not, my friends, because John Doubleday, the MacGyver of ancient artifacts, was on the case. This dude was like a master puzzle solver, a virtuoso of vase restoration, a sultan of superglue. He took those hundreds of pieces, and with the precision of a neurosurgeon and the patience of a saint, painstakingly reassembled the whole shebang. Now, I know what you're thinking. Smithsonian? How did he do it? Well, let me tell you, it was a painstaking process involving shellac, epoxy resins, and a whole lot of TLC. He even added a little basil disc with the date of the break and restoration, just to give it that extra oomph. I mean, talk about attention to detail, am I right? But here's the thing, folks. This wasn't just any old vase. No. This was the Portland vase, a masterpiece of ancient Roman glasswork, a work of art so divine that it's been inspiring artists and designers for centuries. And let me tell you, it's still got it. I mean, have you seen the thing? It's like a work of art, a symphony of glass and craftsmanship that'll leave you breathless. So, the next time you're at the British Museum, make sure to stop by and check out the Portland vase. It's like a little piece of history, a testament to the power of human ingenuity and the importance of a good superglue. And remember, folks, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you've got a priceless ancient artifact in 100 pieces, just call John Doubleday, the Vase Whisperer. That's all for tonight, folks. Keep it locked on Newsbang for more culture, more laughs, and more ridiculousness.
Martuntain Newsbang, firing hot truths at the iron giant of inaccuracy. 1990.
In a stunning display of architectural excess and religious fervour, Pope John Paul II has today consecrated what can only be described as the Vatican's oversized African cousin. The Basilica of Our Lady of Peace in Yamoussoukro, Ivory Coast, now stands as the world's largest Catholic church, dwarfing even St. Peter's Basilica. This colossal edifice, commissioned by President Félix Houphouët-Boigny, can house 18,000 worshippers, although sources suggest it's more likely to echo with the footsteps of a few hundred lost tourists. For more on this titanic testament to faith, we go to our religious affairs correspondent, Pastor Kevin Monstrance.
Good evening, my dear flock. Pastor Kevin here, back from a whirlwind trip to the Ivory Coast. You know, I was just there for the consecration of the Basilica of Our Lady of Peace. Marvellous ceremony, though I must say the canapes left something to be desired. Reminded me of our producer's attempt at hosting a dinner party last Christmas. More on that later. Now, this basilica, it's quite the sight to behold. One of the largest churches in the world it is. Can hold 18,000 worshippers, though I'm told it's usually attended by just a few hundred. Bit like our producer's wedding, that. Speaking of our dear producer, did I ever tell you about his misadventures in Yamoussoukro? No? Well, buckle up, it's quite the tale. So, our intrepid producer, let's call him Nigel Nipplebottom, decided to visit this grand basilica for himself. Wanted to see what all the fuss was about, you see. Well, he gets there, and he's immediately struck by the sheer size of the thing. Blimey, he says, this place is bigger than my mother-in-law's sense of entitlement. Nigel, bless his heart, decides to attend a service. He's not the religious sort, but he figures, when in Rome, or in this case, when in Yamoussoukro. So he squeezes into a pew, and that's when the trouble starts. You see, poor Nigel had indulged in a bit too much of the local cuisine the night before. His stomach was rumbling like a Pentecostal choir, and just as the priest begins his sermon, Nigel lets out a trumpeting flatulence that echoes through the basilica like the voice of an angry god. The priest, a stern fellow named Father Francois Fartou, stops mid-sentence and glares at Nigel. Mon Dieu, he exclaims, is that the sound of the devil in our midst? Nigel, red-faced and mortified, tries to slink down in his seat, but it's too late. The damage is done, the congregation is in an uproar, and poor Nigel is escorted out by a pair of burly altar boys. But the story doesn't end there, oh no. You see, as Nigel is being led away, he spots a familiar face in the crowd. It's none other than Pope John Paul II himself. Turns out His Holiness was there for the consecration ceremony. Well, Nigel, seeing an opportunity for redemption, breaks free from his captors and rushes over to the Pope. Your Holiness, he cries, I'm so sorry for the disruption. It was an accident, I swear. The Pope, bless his soul, just smiles and pats Nigel on the head. My son, he says, in a house of God there are no accidents, only divine comedy. And with that, Nigel was forgiven. He even got a special blessing from the Pope himself. Though between you and me, I think that blessing might have been more for the Pope's nose than Nigel's soul. But there you have it, folks. The tale of Nigel Nipplebottom and the flatulence heard round the world. Just goes to show, even in the grandest of cathedrals, we're all just human, prone to the occasional embarrassing moment. And speaking of embarrassing moments, remind me to tell you about the time Nigel tried to impress a date by cooking a souffle. Let's just say the fire department was not amused. But that's a story for another time. For now, let us give thanks for the grand basilica of Our Lady of Peace, and for the divine comedy that is the human condition. Amen.
And just time to look at tomorrow's papers. The Times, Aussies rescue POWs from Japanese camp in Borneo nick of time. The Telegraph go with Australian forces invade German New Guinea and win battle. The Mail, 9 dead in ostrich farm fiasco. The Express lead with Manchester man's chest haircut by potholer. And the Mirror, 600 turnips used to spell out agricultural plea. That's it. And I should say that earlier report about satellite TV broadcasts for pets was an error. The cats are just watching old videos. Newsbang will be back tomorrow. That's if the trout permit it. Good night.
Tune in next time for more artificially intelligent hilarity. Newsbang is a comedy show written and recorded by AI. All voices impersonated. Nothing here is real. Good night.